He didn't order anything, just stood there in his heavy red jacket, dripping rain, stacking DVDs about missing girls. He never looked at me, only past me, into the back room. I work at a popular coffee chain, usually doing the afternoon or closing shifts. This night in particular, we had a really young crew for closing, which happens at 10:30 p.m. We had our shift lead Sarah, 19 female, myself, 17 female, my coworker Mia, 17 female, and another coworker D, 18 female. It had been a slow night. Only a few of our regulars dropped by. Both the drive-thru and cafe were completely empty. Heavy rain had started and no one wanted to be out in it. I was up front, cleaning while the rest of the team was in the back, when an older man walked in. He was wearing strange clothing for how humid it was outside. It was a full black attire with combat boots, a heavy red jacket, and a beanie that covered his hair. It was odd, but I figured he worked outside and was just protecting himself from the storm. He stood at the mobile order counter. I smiled, put on my customer service voice, and asked if he had placed an online order. He didn't respond. Instead, he placed a bag on the counter and started pulling out DVDs, about 10 of them. When he finished stacking them, he didn't say a word. He just stared past me, right into the back room where my coworkers were chatting, completely unaware. Then, without a word, he made a lap around the store. The whole time, he was staring at me. Finally, he backed out the front door and walked to his vehicle, a large black pickup truck. Now, pretty freaked out, I grabbed the DVDs and rushed to the back. Everyone immediately noticed something was wrong. I handed the stack over and Sarah began looking through them. Her face dropped. All of the DVDs were about murders or kidnappings. We were creeped out and getting angry too. Sarah called our manager, explained the situation, and meanwhile I tried to calm down Mia and Dee, who were both visibly shaken. Our manager told us there wasn't much we could do unless something else happened, so we hung up and cautiously returned to the front of the store as a group. Things continued, but there was tension in the air. Mia stayed close to me and Dee stuck to Sarah. The man's truck had moved, but only to the grocery store parking lot next door, which had a clear line of sight into our drive-thru window. A few cars came through the drive-thru. One customer even asked if I was okay. I guess my face made it obvious that something was off. I've always had strong intuition, and this night felt wrong. A little while later, it was time for Dee to leave, but with a man still nearby, we decided her boyfriend Daniel should come pick her up instead. This wasn't unusual, and we didn't want to risk her walking to her car alone. Then, Mia pointed out something else. A van had been sitting in the back of the parking lot for almost an hour. None of us had noticed it before. That's when another bad gut feeling hit me, and I decided to lock the doors. Daniel texted Dee that he was on his way. I told our manager we were locking the cafe for peace of mind. He was fine with that since business was slow anyway. Now, it was Sarah and Dee in the back. Mia and I stayed up front. I got back to cleaning the machines, trying to distract Mia with small talk. She kept flinching every time someone steamed milk. Then, mid-sentence, she screamed, "Get out!" I turned around. She was pointing toward the drive-thru window. Someone was climbing through it. What happened next was a blur. Pure adrenaline, and honestly it felt like divine intervention. There's no other way to describe it. I grabbed Mia and yanked her behind me. Then I grabbed the bucket of hot sanitizer I had been using and threw it at the man. At the same time, I pushed him back. He had only gotten his shoulders through the window, and I slammed a red food service bucket on his head. If you work in food, you know the kind. Huge and bulky. Right then, Daniel's car pulled up. Mia was yelling for someone to call the police. I saw Dee run outside toward Daniel. I slammed the drive-thru windows shut and locked them. The man was still on the ground, disoriented. Seconds later, Daniel rushed over, pinned him down, and held him there. Sarah and Mia pulled me to the back. Sarah was on the phone with the police. Both of them were trying not to cry. Luckily, We have some amazing regulars who also happen to be deputies. They arrived within 5 minutes. The man was arrested, and here's where it gets even worse. He turned out to be part of a local trafficking ring that had been caught years ago but let out on bail. That van in the back of the parking lot, it drove off during the chaos, but it was later tracked down and linked to others in the same group. A few years ago, my university sent me to Korea. They told me I had to study somewhere in Asia for my major, and a friend had really talked up Korea. I didn't know anything about it, but I figured, why not? I was young, I wanted new experiences, and that's exactly what I got. Just not the kind I expected. I had only ever had one serious boyfriend. We'd broken up a few months before this trip. I wasn't into one-night stands, and the guys at the clubs in Seoul weren't doing it for me. But I still wanted some kind of romantic experience, something real. So a friend recommended a dating app that connected English-speaking Koreans with foreigners. The idea was to meet someone and experience what dating culture was like, and honestly, it seemed harmless. But my first date was anything but. I met him about 3 weeks into being in Seoul. Let's call him Tim. I didn't know much about the culture or the city, and looking back, I was definitely a little naive. Tim was older than me, but said he was a college student. I figured he'd already done his mandatory military service and returned to school. He seemed nice enough in the app chats, and he was eager to meet in person. I agreed. He wanted to come pick me up from my dorm, but I lived in an all-women's dorm, and I didn't want a stranger knowing exactly where I stayed. So I insisted we meet at the town center, near the subway. He really didn't like that idea. A red flag I ignored. The night of the date, I waited an hour. He was very late. He messaged saying he just wanted to make me wait. I thought he was joking and replied with a laughing emoji, assuming he got lost. When he finally showed up, he was much smaller than I expected. Thin, soft-spoken. And maybe because I didn't find him physically intimidating, I let my guard down. That was a mistake. Right away, he was way too touchy, and he breathed weird, heavy and awkward. I've always been pretty tolerant of different personalities, but this was just off. He was also dressed oddly formal, like in business attire for a tea date. Again, I thought maybe that was a cultural thing I didn't understand. Then he said, "You're not as white as I thought you'd be." I thought it was a translation error, but his English was near perfect. I asked him to clarify. He said, "I thought you would be more white. Your skin is darker than I imagined. Your eyes aren't as green. Are you pure European?" At that point, I was seriously weirded out. For context, I'm Irish and Scandinavian, so I'm pale as anything. He told me multiple times that night how he wished I had greener eyes. I tried to laugh it off and said, maybe my online photos made me look brighter, but inside, I was unsettled. We made it to the tea place. I tried to order a raspberry tea, but he insisted repeatedly that I should drink a specific kind of tea. It was weird how pushy he was about it, but again, I brushed it off. He paid. I drank the tea. Looking back, these small things became much creepier. After tea, he asked to walk around my school campus. It was late, but the area was well lit, so I agreed. As we walked, he kept randomly grabbing me for long, uncomfortable hugs. I let it happen once, but when he did it again, I asked him to stop. He didn't. He kept trying and breathing into my neck. He gave me almost no information about himself, no real answers to my questions. At one point, he even said, "I'm a mysterious man," like he was reciting a movie line. He told me I looked just like his favorite movie character, but wouldn't say who. He said I had to figure it out. Then he said, "I want to go somewhere dark." In my head, I screamed, "No way." He somehow knew about a wooded area behind campus and said we should go there. I said no, that I wanted to stay near the main road, but he kept pushing. Then he grabbed my arm. He said, "I can't let anyone see." I panicked, ripped my arm away, told him I wanted to go back to the road, and I started walking fast. He followed me. Eventually, we ended up in front of a hospital in the town center. I told him it was time for him to go. I made up an excuse and told him we could meet again tomorrow. I just needed to get away. I was pretending everything was fine just to get him to leave. Then he leaned in like he was going to kiss me, and I thought, oh no. But it was worse. I felt pain on my face. It took me a second to realize he was biting me like a dog. He turned his head sideways and bit me hard on my nose and cheek. I screamed and shoved him away. His face looked so unnatural. I didn't even think, I just ran. I sprinted up the sidewalk until I saw a convenience store. I ran inside to the back and crouched down in tears. The store owner was yelling at me, confused, but I begged him in English to let me stay. I even bought a popsicle just so he wouldn't kick me out. I looked outside. Tim was gone. I messaged a friend to come get me, and on the way home I texted Tim and told him to stay away from me, that he was a creep, that what he did wasn't okay, and that I'd go to the police if I saw him again. Then I blocked him. For weeks after that, I was terrified to walk around my campus alone. I was so grateful I never let him come to my dorm. Later that night, I called my mom. When I told her what happened, she stopped me and asked, "Wait, what did he say to you again?" She started putting things together. The eye color, the tea, the strange formal outfit, even the things he said. And then it clicked. She told me all of it matched the 50 Shades of Grey books and movies. At first, I thought she was joking, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized she was right. The things he said, the way he behaved, even the tea, they were all references. My mom thinks he picked me because I reminded him of the main character from those stories. It explained the fixation on my appearance, the controlling behavior, even the biting. Hey, if you got a true scary story of your own and you'd like to hear it narrated on the channel, drop it in the comments below or send it to me at MrLiminalStories@gmail.com. We're still a growing channel, so there's a good chance your story will be featured in a future video. So I was a security guard for a local company in my area. I was assigned to a water park along with another guard who regularly worked there. He was supposed to train me, show me around, explain what codes opened which doors, that sort of thing. Right away, I noticed something strange. He never wanted to spend more than 10 minutes inside the property before insisting we leave. On our first night, nothing interesting happened, so the shift dragged on. After a few hours, I asked if he'd ever experienced anything unusual while working there. He said he'd had problems with people trying to sneak onto the property, but that was about it. He also told me he hated working there because of those encounters. He said the people creeped him out. They were sneaky, silent. He didn't want to go into too much detail, afraid I might quit on the spot. That probably should have been a red flag, but I was too excited to let anything like that scare me. A few hours later, our shift ended. We clocked out and went home. The next night, my boss called to inform me that the other guard, my partner, had resigned. I was a bit upset since that meant I'd be covering a two-man post by myself with barely any knowledge of the place. Fast forward a few weeks, I got the hang of the routine. No issues, no break-ins, no vandalism. It was smooth. Until one night. It was 2 a.m. and I was outside at the front of the property completing my rounds when I heard a door slam from inside. It startled me. It was loud. As I walked back in to investigate, I heard more doors opening and closing. I could feel the nerves creeping in. This was my first real situation at the site. I started checking all the doors, doing a full sweep to make sure no one had broken in. Eventually, I reached a corridor with a stairwell leading down. At the bottom was a door. It was wide open. I walked down to shut and lock it, too nervous to look inside. But as I turned to go back up, I saw him. A man dressed in all black stood at the top of the stairs. I froze. I took a step back and realized I was cornered. If he tried anything, I had nowhere to go. Trying to stay calm, I asked, "Do you need help?" No response. I asked again, "How did you get into the property?" Still nothing. Then he slowly turned his head and snapped his fingers. From the left side of the staircase, another man crawled out on all fours like a dog and joined him. I panicked. I turned, kicked the door open, ran inside, and locked myself in a bathroom. I called my boss, explaining what I'd just witnessed. They immediately sent an armed guard to do a walkthrough and make sure the property was safe. When I got the call that the area was clear, I came out and told them everything, from start to finish. But I could tell they didn't believe me, so I clocked out and went home. The next morning, my boss called. They'd reviewed the security footage, and what they told me horrified me. Every hour, as I made my rounds through the property, those same two men were following me, silently, stalking me from the shadows, like it was some kind of twisted game. After that, I requested to be transferred. I couldn't go back, not after that night, and now I finally understood why my trainer never wanted to work there again.